Superman. So what do these superheroes have in common? They're colorful spandex. They're capes. They capture people's attention. They're great at openings. So they capture their audience's attention, be it the passerbyers, the gawkers, any person in the universe, really. Now imagine, what if they never caught the attention of their villain, their enemy, or really anybody at all? Would they still be considered super? No, right? So it's the same as delivering a presentation. If you don't capture your audience's attention, will they pay attention to the message you're trying to deliver? No, right? So now I know not everyone can be superheroes, but we can still learn one thing or two from them. So now I'd like to welcome you to our superhero training. We'll be going over 5 points to keep in mind when constructing a powerful opener. So my name is Rochelle Ose. You can also call me generic super person. And we have here Giselle Rosie K. She will be going over personal grabbers. Connie San, who will be going over literary grabbers. Jordan Wallman, who will be going over creativity in business presentations. Clyde Sinanani will be going over credibility in presentations. And Saqib Bikurudin will be going over strong starters and strong enders. So, and finally, I will swoop in with a conclusion and summarize all our super thoughts. So, now I will start here off with a clip, an example of some really good openers.
I need to make a confession at the outset here. A little over 20 years ago, I did something that I regret. Something that I'm not particularly proud of. Something that in many ways I wish no one would ever know, but that here I feel kind of obliged to reveal. In the late 1980s, in a moment of youthful indiscretion, I went to law school. Now,
I'm honored to be with you today for your commencement from one of the finest universities in the world. Truth be told, I never graduated from college, and this is the closest I've ever gotten to a college graduation.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. 221 years ago, in a hall that still stands across the street, a group of men gathered and with these simple words launched America.
Okay, so we watched 3 different openers. Does anybody have an idea of how or why these speeches were really memorable? Any volunteers? Yes, in the back.
They posed a question that we had to answer.
Okay, that's one of them. So, going off of the first clip was based on humor, right? He told a joke saying, hey, I went to law school, ha 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 ha, right? And then the second clip, he told a story. I didn't go to college, but this is the closest thing I've ever gotten to a ceremony. And then finally, the third, as you mentioned, he quoted a very memorable speech, another speech. So that's one of the points. So we're going to be going over more examples throughout our presentation, and now we'll hand it off to Giselle, who will go over personal grabbers.
Thank you very much, Rochelle. So I'm going to first talk about myself, open up to you guys, and tell you I'm just an average Queens teenage boy who got bit by a supernatural spider and got super strength and super web management skills. I witnessed my uncle pass away in front of me and now seek to stop all crime in the NYC area. In addition, I'm in love with a girl named Mary Jane. Yeah. Okay. You guys, I'm just telling them what not to do with a personal grabber, telling them about yourself. You must remain on topic with your presentation, or else your audience members are going to be thinking, why is this person talking about this? And then boom, they're not going to get the message of your presentation. Now, another personal grabber you can do is with I, you, we, and us. Through connections like that, you will gain the audience's attention. In a scholarly book written by Maxwell Atkins, Lend Me Your Ears, Everything You Need to Know About Presentations and Speeches, they talk about how when you are thoughtful with your audience and make a great connection with them, they will in return give you their attention throughout your presentation. So some styles you can use with these subjects of I, you, we, and us are positivity. You always want to be positive rather than negative, or else your audience will not want to engage with you or engage with your presentation. On the other hand, when your audience member is going through a tough time, you will want to show empathy. They will feel thought of, and when you show compassion, they will in turn show you that they are going to listen to you since you listen to them. Much like empathy, praise is going to be a great style to use when you are trying to show your audience that you are, appreciating them, and they will appreciate you and give you that respect in your presentation. And with the subject of I, usually tends to be used with the style of excited. When you are excited, you show confidence, you show eagerness, and they will be eager to listen to you. Now, I'm going to give you guys some examples that you can use post-graduation from school. When you are a boss and you need to get your audience, you may say something like this. Good morning, everyone. We had a really tough couple of weeks. We stayed up till a lot of the times 2 a.m. and we got many, many gains on our returns. We're on the path to success. Now, who's the subject I'm trying to connect to with that example?
Your team.
Yes.
We.
Yes, we is the subject. And now an example that is more near to our future, when you are trying to appeal to your boss or recruiter. I'm excited to be working here, and I'm excited to be working with this great team. Now, what are the two styles of personal grabbers I'm trying to use in that example?
Excitement, positivity.
Yes, thank you very much. When you show this, your boss will probably promote you more and think you're management material and you know how to present yourself well. Now, with an example of showing both empathy and praise, you may say something like, I know you've been going through a really tough time lately, and I really appreciate all the work you've been doing with this team. They will feel appreciated, and you never want to show negativity with saying you. I will never go, I disagree with you. Because then you tune out. You tune out and you think negatively of the presentation, and you're not going to listen after that with their message. Now, you may not have been blessed like me to get bitten by a spider and be able to connect to others instantly. But you can use personal grabbers to benefit you to make connections, work well with others, and get promotions with even the toughest bosses. All right, now I will pass it off to Connie to discuss literary grabbers.
Thank you, Giselle. Well, hello everybody. How you all doing tonight? Right? Right. Okay, tonight I'm gonna cover over the literary grabber. Before I go on into my topic, let me ask you a question. Any of you here have your own superhero in mind when you was young? You do. I do as well. Mine is Iron Man.
Okay.
Well, before I start doing my, let me tell you about one other short story about me when I was young. Okay, late 1990. Yeah, I'm an old lady here. Yeah, I was hooked into a story, a cartoon story about Iron Man. You know, you can believe it. I fight with my niece and nephew every day just to get the remote to watch my show. You know, back in that day, one of the households usually have only one TV, right? Because technology is not that great, so we all cannot afford for more than one TV in the house, right? So I did. I make them cry every day, but I still don't care because teenager time is like they don't care too much about anything around them, right? So I did. So but now they all grow up to like 25 years old, and then when we do have a family gathering together, they always talk about that. and bring all of that to embarrass me, but I told him, I don't care what y'all say. I still like my Iron Man. So I do, because I believe in him because he's intelligent. He is one of profession in scientists and engineering, so out there. So I'm still loving him. So let's go back to our topic. There's three things I'm gonna cover tonight. One is anecdote. The second one is quotation. The other one is statistic. So when you use anecdote, it's hard for me to pronounce, I'm sorry. But when you use that, you make sure tell your story, your own story that you experience it. Like I did earlier, I tell a story about me relating to my superhero. So if you use somebody else's story out there, it could be they already being used by the previous presentation. And your audience not gonna sit here and listen to what they already hear about it like so many times. They walk out of your presentation and or they might be sit there and bored without listening to you. And the other thing is that when you do have when you do have underdog, sometimes you have to bring your audience into your presentation by telling a funny story, or just cheer them up a little bit and just make them laugh and powder them out. So that's why they're not going to be bored anyways. And also the second topic I'm going to talk about is quotation. When using quotation, there's three things you have to remember. Find a quotation that belonging to a famous people, important politician, or a well-known author. So when you use that quote from these people, all your audience kind of follow up with you and see who they are. They understand what is your message is about. For example, in my quote, I using like Steve Jobs. He have a quote. He say, "Great thing in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people." Steve Jobs. You know, the wisdom of this man had no doubt. People tend to believe every single word he said because of his achievement in the business, and also his ability and all of this new age that he did in technology. So the third one is statistic. Statistic, don't make statistic boring. Okay, when you use statistic in your presentation, make sure you have tell the story about a number. What I mean about a number is like, for example, your statistic is about a billionaires in the world. So you might bring up and tell the story about Mark Cuban. And then you do the research and study about him, and then you show your audience that you actually study and learn about him and telling the story, and you revealing that he's just one of the 20,000 people out there that's the billionaire. So also statistic, important statistic, you bring it with your audience when they leave your presentation. So, and finally, there's a tip that can bring statistic to life. So remember that. Briefly expand your thesis, expand your statistic that between your statistic and your message to your audience. Don't just put your statistic up there and let them try to understand it by trying to understand it by themselves. But you have clearly explained it to them and tell them that what is you mean by that. So the last one, the benefiting of literary are to increase your credibility, make your speech memorable, and also make the audience laugh and calm. That's all I have for my presentation, and let me pass it on to Jordan.
Thank you, Connie. All right, everyone. So imagine this. You've been assigned to give a presentation. You're walking up to the podium, you've worked really hard on this speech, you look out at the audience, and no one is paying attention to you. Well, if only you had some huge spotlight out there to direct all the attention right on you. Yes. Wouldn't we all like a bad signal?
Unfortunately, we don't have these in classrooms or auditoriums or conference rooms. So we've got to find other ways to creatively get the audience to focus on us as a speaker and really pay attention to our message. But how are we going to start off our speech so people pay attention instantly? Well, sometimes it's best to start with what not to do. These are what I call the presentation villains. These are the don'ts. Now, you don't want to introduce your introduction. Nothing makes an audience tune out faster than getting up there and saying, "Hi, I'm Jordan, and today I'm going to talk about X, Y, and Z." Yes, it is very important to give your audience a guideline of what you're going to talk about, but you really need to capture their attention first. Another important of your presentation, which has been covered, but we're going to go over it again. It's that important. Don't forget your audience. Now, say for example, you were to use a literary grabber like Connie talked about, and you use this famous quote, but it has a ton of swear words in it. You might not want to use that particular literary grabber in a room full of school children. Another presentation villain is don't sound like everyone else. Everyone in this classroom has heard a lot of presentations over a lot of different topics. The worst thing you can do is be boring. So you need to be creative and think outside the box if you're really going to get your message across. But what if you're thinking, yeah, I got told to give this presentation, I did it, got the job done. What's the benefit of being creative? Well, it's because it's a lot easier to grab people's attention at the beginning and maintain it than get up there, worry, struggle, and really start to panic that the audience isn't understanding any of your content. Another benefit is once you use creativity and do something to get the audience hooked, you've created a connection with them. They want to hear what you have to say. They're much more likely to be engaged and ask questions. So another benefit is you'll stand out from the others. Now, the committee's judging you or the boss is evaluating you. Do they remember all the boring speeches they've heard? Or do they really remember the ones that stood out and were unique? Now, another thing I do want to point out on this slide is Batman's utility belt. See, Batman did not grow up on the planet Krypton. He did not get bit by any radioactive spiders. The only tools Batman has to fight evil is his creativity and a lot of money. But he comes up with a lot of gadgets and gizmos and puts them in his utility belt. And today we're going to give you guys some creative tools to put in your presentation utility belt. All right, our first creative opener will be something we're all probably somewhat familiar with, a startling statement. Now, to stay on theme, it would be something like, "Ladies and gentlemen of Gotham, it's time I come clean. I am Batman." Anything that gets the audience's attention and makes them perk up. Next, we have question, which would be something like, "Who here has been a victim of Joker and his pack of thugs? Who is sick of the streets of Gotham being run by criminals?" You get the gist. Now, another creative opener is to perform a skit. Now, it depends on your audience and the tone needed in your presentation. Sometimes a skit can be a really great way to demonstrate new concepts or things that might be hard to grasp otherwise. It can literally set the scene for the topics you're going to later discuss in your presentation. An extremely effective opener is utilizing humor in your introduction. A great example I saw recently was Warren Buffett was talking to a bunch of University of Georgia business students, and he got called to the front, went to the podium, went up to the mic, and did a sound check. But not like you or I would do. You know, mic check, 1, 2. No. Warren Buffett, the billionaire tycoon, in front of the sea of broke college students, said, "Mic check, 1 million, 2 million?" And the crowd really laughed. They really got into it. It was a great way for him to break the ice and build a connection with his audience through humor. And lastly, never underestimate the attention-grabbing capabilities of a good visual or audio effect. See, something as simple as the intro news music can really get somebody's attention. It lets you know that the commercials are done, it's time to tune in and focus. Or look for the remote, depending on your television taste. All right, so now it's time for you to put your new tools into use. We want to let you guys practice using the different kinds of openers and be able to recognize the many different types. So this game is similar to Apples or Cards Against Humanity, if you've ever played those. So in your groups, the shortest person draws the first card. On this card, to yourself, you will read the directions in bold at the top. Read them to yourself. Then out loud, you will say what's in the quotation in the middle. And then whoever thinks they know which kind of opener it is, which your options are listed on this sheet you have here at the bottom. And then you just raise your hand, you get picked, you guess. If you get it, you get a point in the card, and then you draw the next one. So we're going to give you guys 5 minutes Yeah, it should be in your groups, which we're all passed out together and together. So we have 5 minutes, and the time starts now.
So, I already know that I'm a short Alright. So I guess I'm supposed to pick right? Not that complicated. Well, I'm gonna pick a team.
Really? That's
Oh yes, how can we stop bullying in schools? Is this the answer to educate bullies or educate those being bullied? Do we need more supervision on playgrounds? How about stricter penalties for offenders?
we have, you can have this one if you want, if that helps you know what the options are. I don't know.
We're supposed to figure out the opener. I did not.
What should be on the bottom? In the bold at the bottom, the answer?
Is this one question?
Yeah, it's a question opener. It's a bunch of questions.
It's the answer is a question.
Oh, sorry. But that one is tricky. I had thought about
She like told me anyway.
I want to do over. In 2030, it is projected that 42% of Americans will be obese. Almost half of our country.
Statistics.
Right.
Whoa!
Yes.
Man, I want to think she get it. I got this.
I know, for real. I'm happy that
Let's go, Mohammed.
I hope my speech today will actually do on the very end of your seat is somebody that will be humor.
All right, Mohammed.
Kelly's on fire. Let's go, bro.
No, the other way around. Putting the ones we picked up that bottom.
Yo, fam, I'm waiting right now. All right, wait, it's Enrique's turn. This is
What are you doing?
Cheese, Mohammed.
Okay, well, I'm
Thank you.
I love twins.
You're trying to bribe me, right? I got you. Hey, that's a good thing. Hey, I want to apply this information. Okay. Sorry. More than 10 years ago, when I was invited here to talk about my experiences in the people of the Republic of China. More than 10 years ago, when I was invited here to talk about our experience in the people, Republic of China. I remember being struck by the boat.
starting with statement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well,
It was boring as crazy.
That's not the way. That's the way.
Get this one.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Don't worry. Hey, don't worry.
No.
I get this one. Hey, don't worry about it.
There's like a whole paragraph there, but
and then next weekend, what about telling that after pie?
All right, guys, we have 30 more seconds.
Oh man, I'm going to be needing a lot of allergy medicine this year.
You lost me. I don't know what that is. Is it what?
Why does it
You're gonna give me the right. It's gonna be just like this. Okay.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for playing. I hope that was a little fun for everyone, and I hope you got a little more comfortable doing some openers that maybe you would not have considered doing before. So, and now I'm going to turn it over to Clyde, and he's going to talk to you a little bit more about credibility.
Thank you, Jordan.
While my peers are talking to you about crafting a wonderful opener and getting to engage your audience for the rest of the presentation, there's another aspect you really need to think about. What about you? What makes the audience accept you and what you have to say? Before we get into that, let me ask you a question. How many of you actively use Wikipedia to research for your college papers and cite it on your college papers?
I used to.
That's a good idea. That happens because Wikipedia lets anybody edit that information, and that has resulted in a lot of wrong answers or wrong information being out there. So Wikipedia lost one of the most important aspects of being an effective communicator, credibility. Credibility is the degree to which you can be trusted or believed upon. It's just like the shield that Captain America has that protects him from the attacks of villains. Credibility will protect you from the negativity that the audience might have. Sometimes they will have a resistance towards what you are trying to say, or they might be skeptical towards your message. Credibility, if you are getting accepted by the audience, it will lead to you being persuasive. If you've won over the audience, they will be more willing to learn what you're trying to teach them. They will be willing to accept what you're trying to say or do what you want them to do, incorporate an action in their daily lives. So persuasiveness is one of the benefits. If you establish a track record of being a credible presenter, that will lead in you having to try less on future presentations because you have a reputation of being credible. So reputation and credibility go hand in hand. Also, a lot of credible presenters have that what you see is what you get type of personality. That is very sought after for leadership roles because people like to be led by someone who is very clear, very sincere, and people always know where he stands upon a certain subject. But how do you manage to show yourself as being credible in front of an audience? Well, credibility is not whether you have it or you don't a measure. It's more like a linear scale, and every person on the audience places you on that scale. Think of it like 1 to 10, subjectively. So in order for you to deal with that, you need to know the aspects of credibility and try to hit as many of them early on in your presentation, hopefully the opener, so that the rest of the presentation flows in a smoother way. So the first aspect is goodwill and fairness. That relates to the being sincere, how much you care about the audience and what you're trying to deliver to them. You can use the techniques that Group 1 showed to actually analyze who you're speaking to and tell them firsthand what they're going to get out of the presentation that you're going to give. Second aspect is expertise. Expertise relates to how much you know regarding the subject. What experiences have you had that make you an expert in the field that you're talking about? You can start early on with that, something along the lines of, in my experience, in the 2 years where I volunteered at my job, I learned this and this. The other aspect is prestige. That's related to the implied credibility that comes from your position that you might have. If you're the CEO of a company talking to your employees, you have an implied credibility. You don't have to work as hard to earn that. If you're just an employee talking to senior management, you got to try a little bit harder. And the last and most important aspect of credibility is self-presentation skills. Because just to want to be credible is not enough. What you're actually showing the audience is very important. And you can do that by using verbal skills, stage presence, and confidence. Think of Captain America, when he goes to the scene, he stumbles over his shield, second guesses himself, trying to think what to do. In the meantime, the villains are already winning the game. So you have to be confident in delivering your message. Next, I'm going to pass it on to Sakib to talk to you more about starting and ending strong in your presentation.
Thank you, Bud. Good afternoon, citizens. Today I will be talking to you all about how to introduce yourself and as well as conclude your presentations. Now, tell me this. When you think of Superman coming in to save the day, do you see him walking to the scene? Do you see him jogging? Or how about coming in a taxi saying, oh, here's your $5 tip? No. He comes in, it's Superman, you know? You come in with a super extra out of the nowhere scene where you just fly in, you break the ground for no reason, you just come out of nowhere. That's labor damage right there. It's the same concept for introductions, but just don't break the ground. When you start a speech with an exciting and eye-opening introduction, you have accomplished the first task, and that's project your voice. Be loud and confident for the entire audience to hear what you have to say. No one can hear me. I'm talking like this. Can you hear what I'm saying? No, I can't. Which leads me to my next topic, being confident. And let me ask you this. Who here thinks that Superman's insecure and shy and self-doubts himself? Exactly. Be bold and confident. In a recent study, Baldwin and Dreher found that individuals with public speaking anxiety were less able to demonstrate critical thinking skills in group discussion situations. How can you listen to anyone who isn't really sure or doubts themselves about what the material is? Be bold, stand up straight, have enthusiasm with your material, and people will listen regardless. It's just an innate human nature. Lastly, for strong introductions is making eye contact. Maintaining good eye contact with your audience not only shows that you can speak, it shows that you want them to engage in the conversation that you're presenting. Notice this, I'm speaking to Enrique the whole time. I'm pretty sure you've all seen that. Now how does that all make you feel? Everyone's kind of just like halfway through, okay, he's not talking about me, he's talking to Enrique. But that doesn't mean at the same time where you have to look at every single person individually for 30 seconds. That just means have a fine balance of maybe a few seconds over here, a few seconds over here. Keep everyone engaged. Don't let anyone out. Congratulations for that awesome speech you just gave. You're almost home. You just have to finish off strong. And how are we going to do that? Well, think of it like this. When Superman just saved the day, he got all the bad guys in jail, does he say, all right, I'm tired, see you guys later? Or does he say, you know, taxi? No, he looks at everyone in the eye, clears any doubt or misconception that he must have, and he just flies away. When you give a story or a relatable memory from your own personal life, it's easier for the audience to understand what you mean. Because how am I supposed to say, oh, that was a great speech, he just gave a bunch of quotes and random examples of things that don't really have any meaning to him or any meaning to me. Try making it feel like less of a thesis and more like a huge discussion. Try to have them fully understand and soak in all the materials, so that way it's easier for you and for them to understand. Smooth transitions. Smooth transitions are very overlooked in finishing off a speech. You don't just say, so yeah, that's my presentation, or you start off a completely different topic. You want to ease into that topic and give a nice introduction into it. The best part about that is, the best advice I can give for that is, when you're finishing off a topic, try having the next topic at the end of that first topic. So that way the audience knows, oh, this is what he might talk about next. Last but not least, when Superman is saving the day, does he do it all in a small little room, in a soundproof room where no one can hear him or say, oh, who's Superman? Of course not. Everyone knows who Superman is. He saves the town, he saves the world in the middle of Times Square on CNN News, on everything. He's keeping the audience engaged and entertained. That's the same mentality you should have with keeping the audience interactive. Try walking around to keep the audience's eyes moving. Ask them a question. If you feel like you've been talking for too long, have a volunteer ask a question. And that, my fellow citizens, is how we're going to save the day. Now, I'll pass it off to Rochelle to conclude.
Thank you, Saki. Now, we went over personal grabbers with Spider-Man, literary grabbers with Iron Man, creativity in presentations with Batman, credibility in your presentation with Captain America, and we went over starting strong, ending strong with Superman. So, do we all think we have a very good understanding about how to make an opener? You think like, hey, I can make an opener, watch me do it, right? Okay, I'll challenge you. Now, so that make sure that we all fully understand how to make a really good opener, we're gonna have you fill out the handout we gave you earlier today. It's that one that says attention-getting presentation. So, it looks like this. Sorry, it's gonna be in black and white. But it has attention-getting presentations on the top, and we're